Hi everyone, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and this is the penultimate day of Vlogmas. So it's December the 23rd today and tomorrow will be my last Vlogmas video. I really hope you've enjoyed the videos so far. Anyway, we're out in the garden again today because it's another lovely day. It's not too cold, it doesn't feel too windy and it's not raining. So I've got a couple of jobs that I'd like to do. I've got some little plants that I'd like to put in the garden. I've got some primula and some some wallflowers. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the English names. So I've got primroses, wallflowers and violas I'd like to plant. I've got a little bit of mulching that I'd like to do around the roses and salvias, and I've got a little evergreen topiary that I want to just tidy up for the winter so it looks nicer in its pot. There'll probably be some other jobs along the way, but let's get started with those ones. It's obviously windier than I thought, so I keep eating my hair. This little pot here has some Verbena bonariensis that self-seeded and grew in it all summer, and so I left it because it looked really cute. But what I want to do is dig it out and plant it in my flower beds, and what I'm also going to do is prune it because that will initiate bushier growth next season. So I'm just going to snip it. So I'm just going to cut down to like a leaf node, and it really doesn't have to be precise. I could cut it anywhere and it will grow back, but I want bushier growth. I mean, you can already kind of see that there are little leaves trying to shoot up. I find that Verbena bonariensis self-seeds readily in my garden. Once you've got it, I think it's always going to be there, and I think that's a great thing. It's fantastic. It sways in the breeze. It's like this purple haze when it's in flower. The birds and the bees love it. Well, definitely the insects do. So I'm more than happy to have more plants. I would just have a meadow of it because I think it's gorgeous and it's a really nice colour. So all I'm going to do is tip this out. I can see that it's rooted right to the bottom actually, so I'm probably going to have to dig it out. This might be a harder job than I thought. Okay, so now I'm just going to divide it. There are two plants here at least. I'm just going to cut through. That was just an annual that I planted in this pot originally. And I think that's just one plant. So these two can now be planted in the garden. Let's go and do that. We're down here at the bottom of the garden around the cercis, which has got these sort of mottled pinky green and white leaves. At the moment it's a very small tree, so I can plant things underneath it. So what I've got is I've got the two Verbena bonariensis at the back here on the more southern side, and then underneath the tree already I've got some Gypsophila rosea, which is just this gorgeous sort of fluffy mound of pinky white flowers, very airy and gorgeous. And in front I've put three erisemums, so three wallflowers. These are perennial wallflowers, which is this gorgeous sort of purpley yellow. It's kind of in pastel shades, but it is a nice bright splash of colour. And then in front of that I've got a swathe of sort of white, which is Physotegia, I think that's how you say it, and this one is called Crystal Peak White. And then I've also scattered around some lovely purpley pansies. And I just think this is going to be like a little whitey purpley area underneath the cercis. So Richard's just going to come and help me plant these things so we can get them in quickly and then do some more planting. The other thing I should mention is that all of these plants, obviously apart from the Verbena that I've just dug up, I ordered as tiny little plug plants and I've just been growing them on. This conifer here is called Picea abies Riedel, and we planted it last year, and it's definitely grown. It's supposed to be slow growing, up to 2 meters in 20 years, but it's definitely grown since last year, and it has the most incredible red tips to the branches. in the spring, and around this tree I'm going to plant some cowslips, which are these really pretty tall yellow flowers that pop out in spring, and I think it's going to look spectacular. So these again arrived as little plug plants and I've been growing them on, so I didn't record any of that, but I've just sort of tried to plant them in threes around the tree. I'm sorry. Well, you don't need to see me planting a cowslip. So this tree here is a Picea pungens Edith, which we planted last year, and it'll get to about 6 to 8 foot tall. It's got these gorgeous blue needles, and I think the purple wallflowers are going to look lovely there in the spring. And we've also got a couple of the violas left over, the purple ones, and there are some bulbs around here, so we're coming across a few bulbs as we plant. But this area down here is where I kind of have the orangey coloured dahlias, the bronzy coloured dahlias, and I also think that the purple's going to look really nice with those as well. So this rose here is a hybrid teak called Souvenir. And it was new last year. We planted it as a bare root last year, and it's grown significantly. This is quite a significant growth. It'll get to 90 centimetres tall, and I think that's about 90 centimetres tall. So it's swaying around quite a lot in the breeze, this particular branch here. So the best thing to do to stop it snapping and bending in the winter is just to take about a third of it off now, and then we prune again just before it begins to start growing in the spring. I was asked in my video yesterday about the pruning of my climbing roses, why we don't hard prune our shrub roses at this time of year, and the reason we don't hard prune them right now is because if it's quite warm like it is today, maybe 10 or 11 degrees, as soon as we prune it, it's going to stimulate the plant into growth, and so little new shoots will appear. And then if we get a hard frost, which we definitely will over the coming months in January or February, that will damage those new shoots. So it's much better not to hard prune it, so that when you do prune it in the spring, those new shoots won't get damaged by frost. I think that's the theory. Anyway, I hope that clarifies it. I'm not a rose expert, and there probably are some experts out there, but I think that's the theory with these roses, the modern shrub roses, about doing sort of the double prune. So you definitely don't want to take it off more than a third, and I'm just going to prune it down to, I think, this leaf here, just to try and take some of the foliage off, because that's what's catching the wind and that's what's making it sway, and then the branches will break. And this definitely happens because yesterday when I was pruning the shrub roses, what I didn't show you, and I probably should have done, was that some of those branches had bent in the wind and had broken. They'd snapped, and that's a good way to let in disease and things like that. So that's why I started pruning those roses, because I saw that and I wanted to make sure that they didn't break anymore. So that's, I've kind of, taken off some of the foliage. Hopefully it won't catch the wind quite so much, and it should be fine. Now that will withstand the weather much better. I'm not deadheading these little plants here because they've got little seed heads, and insects might welcome those, so I'm just leaving those until next year. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mulch around the base of the roses, because that will give it a really good feed and it will suppress the weeds. And so when we're mulching, it's best to mulch thickly in a little area rather than spread it all out and have a really thin layer. So this one's called Festive Jewel, and I can see this branch is quite long and moving around a lot, so I'm going to take that off. And we will mulch the whole beds, it's just that they aren't weeded and we don't have time to do that today. So the whole bed will get mulched as soon as it gets weeded. We'll probably do it in patches. Weed mulch, weed mulch. This one we're doing now is called Chicago Peace, another beautiful rose that we planted last year, but you can see that it's not quite as tall, and so I don't need to chop anything off at this time. But that's it for today. I've really enjoyed my little bit of fresh air in the garden. I don't have time to do any more today, unfortunately. I've got loads of other stuff to do in preparation for Christmas, but I've really enjoyed myself. I hope you have too, and you found it fun and interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all for the last Garden Vlogmas tomorrow.